Somebody at the table said, "So Tony, are you making money with your license?" And I said, "What? I can make money with my license?" And they said, "Yeah, you can do deliveries, you can teach, you can do towboat, you can do all kinds of things." And I've been an instructor, I've been a teacher in college all my life. And so I decided to do that. So now I enjoy in my retirement from my full-time past jobs, going out on the water and introducing people to sailing and giving them the fine points in higher level courses. So it's been a wonderful experience for me, and I hope it is for everyone here as well. We have a great panel tonight. I'm going to let you be introduced by Cheryl. I don't want to take that away from her,
you.
but I really thank you all for being here. And I want to announce our other board members. We have, I don't have my glasses on, but
You can change
oh,
slides.
we can change the slides and then
Yep.
I can read it off the slide. That's even better. Next slide. Oh, there are a few things I want to say before we get started with the rest of the announcements. We have decided on the board about delivery contracts and developing some guidance for new captains who want to do deliveries. We have content on the website and it's there. It's not easily available. So we have to do some work on the website to bring it to easier access. Next slide. What we have on the website right now basically provides, next slide. We certainly don't want to create a contract that people download because contracts have to be developed specifically for the captain who's doing whatever work is being contracted. So, but we want a list of ideas, and the captain should work with his or her lawyer to create the contract specifically for their business. So what we already have on the website includes some ideas like points of embarkment, point of departation, a window for departure, all the things that might be of critical importance, particularly on a delivery contract, are on the website, but it's not easy to find. So what we want to do is bring them closer to the surface so that new captains in particular who want to do contracts who want to do deliveries can have easy access to the ideas that ought to be in the contract. So now we'll go into our vice president is Davis Jones. Is Davis here? I didn't see Davis. Okay. Greg is here. Greg Paps was selling the 50-50 raffle, and thank everybody for doing that. We have Bob Thompson as our secretary. I didn't see Bob here tonight either. And we have Carl Bart, who is our treasurer. Carl is here. I saw Carl outside. And he's been doing a wonderful job keeping track of our money and expenses. We have a continuing education director, Mike Dillon. Communication, I can't read that in red.
Yeah, vacant.
So it's vacant. This is an important issue that I need to announce. We need someone to volunteer as our communication director, basically, to help us with advertisements, spin sheet, prop talk. We have announcements in all those publications, and we really need somebody to help us keep that organized and up to date. Jobs program, Laura Olson, membership, Phil, program, Cheryl Duvall, webmaster Dave Sire, and of course Hillary is now members at large with our program speakers and getting things organized. Alan is with our boat show, and Robert Doolittle is what's Robert doing?
He's Alan.
Special account. Okay. Right now we have 340 members. We got 24 members in the last 6 months. And we have some new members who are here. Oh, these are all getting it because they're here. You guys are all here. We don't always have the new members here, but Tate Westbrook, very good. Kevin Scott, we got gifts for you. Lee Black, good show. Chris Yearwood. I saw Chris there. Perfect. And Will Fink is helping us out. So thank you all, new members. And with that, as soon as Cheryl gets finished handing out these packages, Alan, you want to say something? What do you have?
Two things. Number one, it's time to volunteer for the fall boat shows. So need to have volunteers that work group, please let me know. The earlier you sign up, the better chance you have of getting the ship one. So this all be put into the log that's coming out. And the other thing in September, we'll be holding the CPR training program over at the yacht club. You need to have your CPR certification. You need to have it every 2 years. You don't need to show your card, but every 5 and renew. You're still required to maintain the certification every 2 years. So the course that we have is the American Heart Association course that meets all the requirements for your captain. Let me know if you're interested in taking the CPR course.
Thank you, Alan. And now I want to turn it over to Cheryl. Cheryl's going to introduce the programs and has a few more words to say.
Thanks, Tony. All right. We have some wonderful programs coming up. Next slide. So look at this. We do not hold programs with speakers in August, November, December. We do have a general meeting where we do our elections, which will be December 1st this year because that's the Monday after Thanksgiving. So because of that, we don't have speaker programs in November and December, nor do we have one in the hot summer month, although this is very hot tonight, hot summer month of August, which means you are looking at a complete calendar for the rest of the year from programs. So I want to thank Hillary Howes, Bob Thompson, and Dave Oler, the wonderful programs committee we have, because we have really secured some great speakers, and you're about to hear a couple of wonderful ones tonight. So please mark your calendars. On your desks, on your tables, are a couple of these, and not all the tables are full, so feel free to take one of these with you or just mark it in your calendar. For those that are like Will Fink, thank you, Will, for filling in for Hillary tonight at AV. He does everything electronically and digitally, so he may not have, he may not be taking paper, but the rest of you, if you want to, please do. We also value your feedback on tonight's program, as well as additional programs that you're interested in, speakers, topics, whatever, and tours. And I'll talk about the tours in just a second, but we asked, you responded, and we listened. We have private tours for CAPCA members coming up at Trade Point Marine Terminal in Baltimore. We don't have specifics about this or the cost yet because there are logistics involved. It's limited to 30 people, and we have to rent a motor coach to transport those 30 people around acres and acres and acres of property. So once we figure that out, then we'll put a cost on it and it will be up and available for registration. Again, this is members only tour. If it sells out, as many of our programs have, our tours have, then we'll probably be repeating it again in the spring. So don't worry if you didn't get in for the one that is this November, or if you're already otherwise occupied. But we're very excited to have that tour coming up. The next slide shows our recent tour. We had 16 people, which was the max allowed, tour the Thomas Point Shoal Lighthouse. And there we all are on the lighthouse. They had a staff member in the water taking a picture of all of us up there, which was really lovely. So that's the boat that took us over and all of us there. It was just a really lovely time. If we are not able to sell out our tours, which has happened for this tour as well as the one in March, we do then email the members who have already registered and ask them if they would like to bring a guest. So that's how it works if we're not able to completely fill it up. So for Thomas Point Lighthouse, we had 12 people that had signed up. So then we emailed those 12 and said, would any of you like to bring a guest? And that's how we got our additional 4. So we will do the same, and we keep a waiting list now because I've learned my lesson on that. So we'll do the same for the November tour of Trade Point. So 30 people. If we don't get 30 members, if we don't get 30 members, we will open it up to the members who have already registered to see if they would like to add a guest. And that can be a spouse, a friend, whomever they want. And with that, I think we are ready for the 50-50. Greg, are you ready? Have you counted the money? Do you want me to give you a minute? I'm going to give you a minute to count the money so you know. And if you say what? $58, $78 divided by 2 would be, is that 49? 49. Thank you, Sean. What? 39. 39. Thank you, Sean. $39 goes to, we do. So you're going to give that to Sean, who did the math, and he's going to draw the winning ticket.
Didn't buy a ticket. So.
All right, perfect. You're perfect for this.
He's got a bunch.
Captain Boomies has 6 tickets over there. Right.
There we go. This is, she got them.
And I've got reading glasses.
Okay.
Okay, the last 3 numbers are 362.
Yeah.
362. Oh.
His brother was on the board.
Not only is he a new member, he also won the door prize. How about that? Awesome. Okay. I also want to say he's the twin brother of our new assistant treasurer. So if they look similar over there, Adam is our assistant treasurer helping out Carl. And Carl is about to move to Texas. So we will miss him, seeing him at our meetings, but it is lovely to have an assistant treasurer to help out. All right. Now I think we're ready to meet our moderator and panelists. I get to introduce our moderator and then she will introduce the panelists. So I met Hillary in this room about 2 years ago, I think, at the annual meeting. And I didn't know for our annual meeting, by the way, the elections, and those of you online as well as here in the room, it's members only for this year. It's December 1st. That year, I think it was a November date.
I think it was.
I greeted her when she came in the room. It was my first time at an annual meeting. I didn't know that we provide beer and wine inside the room. In addition to, we subsidize dinner. So tonight you're buying cash dinner down there. Members, if you come back for December 1st, we have no speaker, but it is a dinner meeting. We encourage people to come. I think we usually charge $15 or something. That's what we did that year. And it cost us in the 30s for us to host this. So we're subsidizing it as CAPCA board. That's typically what we do. So I greet Hillary. She comes in and I go, oh, if you want, because I had seen people go down to the bar to buy whatever. I didn't realize we had beer and wine in the room. So she comes back with a beer and I go, oh my gosh, I just sent you down there. I didn't even realize we had it because it was my first time too. So anyway, she's forgiven me. She joined.
It's a cheap beer though.
So she and I became friends. She is an amazing person. She is a sailing instructor, a charter captain, a delivery captain, and a yacht broker. So hence, who better to interview our panel tonight than Hillary? The other things you might not know about Hillary is she is a 5th generation Californian who was born in San Jose, but she didn't learn to sail until she went to college in San Francisco. Fast forward a few years, after working in Washington, D.C., designing sets and lighting for exhibits, events, and trade shows, she started eyeing retirement and decided she wanted to sail more. So she got her teaching certifications and eventually her captain's license. She is one of 38 captains of Howell's Heritage, her family name, at the Maritime Museum in Dennis, Massachusetts. Might not know that about her. In 2023, she was honored to be featured in Kristen Ratajski's Her Helm, as was Kate,
Yeah.
as was Aaron, as was Vicky, as was Julianne. Anybody else I'm missing tonight? And Lauren, yes. All right. So all the Her Helms. Hillary's first boat was a 1997 Pearson 30, and then she bought a 1990 Catalina 30, which offered more room. She named her Laughing Spirit because Hillary means laughter. How about that? And Howes means a burial mound or spirit in Old English. As a broker with Integrity Yacht Sales, she often takes boats out on sea trials. So she is an ASA instructor, does private instruction on either her boat or clients' boats, and a host of other things. So thank you, Hillary, for
you.
being our moderator.
Right. Well, I'm happy to be here. Because it's air conditioned here. How many were out in the heat today? Ooh, man. I'm just going to give a few comments and then we'll go to the guests and let them really introduce themselves and tell us about their businesses. So let's start with Sean Owen. He's the founder of Chronic Sailing. He's an ASA instructor. He's a USCG master captain. And he's also the founder here as Chronic Sailing. It's a boutique charter, and hopefully he'll let us know what that means. Sailing instruction company, also based in Annapolis, Maryland. He's got more than 30,000 nautical miles of offshore experience, including yacht deliveries throughout the Caribbean and extensive teaching across the Chesapeake Bay. So, Sean, tell us a little bit about yourself. You've got some slides for you.
Yeah, they asked for some slides, and as a unprepared skipper, I just sent pictures of myself. So we're gonna look at different pictures of me. This is from our delivery world, so we'll just go through these real quick. That's my pirate flag in the back. We did a lot of deliveries, how I kind of cut my teeth as a captain. I started working with Sail Away Catamarans on South River, built their charter program and kind of helped take their sales program into a charter world. Had no experience doing it before that. I got involved with them as a musician. So that was my real job up until COVID. So I was playing music at different yacht brokers events for the boat show, and then Tommy and Amy invited me down to the Bahamas, to their base down there to do an event. And then they were like, hey, we have to move this boat to Miami. Do you want to help? I was like, yeah, I do. And moved it over, and they were like, well, we get all these calls for people looking for charters. And we're a sales team. We don't really have time to chase that. So what do you think about spending your days when you're not playing music in our office and try to build that out? So I started there, and we had, I think, 2 boats that were in the program the very first year. I think we did about like 15 charters for the summer. I worked for about 5 years, and by the time I was done, I think we had about 8, 9 boats, and we were almost in about 150 charters per year.
Wow.
The Annapolis market, I've found, is very heavy on the day trip. Chesapeake Bay isn't the Caribbean, you know, it's awesome, but after a couple of days, it's not quite, you know, St. Martin or wherever. So we found a lot of people were trying to just come and spend the day on the water. You know, they wanted to take a birthday party or a bachelorette party or just you know, an anniversary or something and spend time out there. So that's kind of what we developed our program for with Sail Away. Once I left Sail Away and started Chronic Sailing, we moved up into Annapolis, into Back Creek at Port Annapolis Marina, and just really came hard at that market. Felt there was a lot of people that just were close to the water, but they didn't have the access to the water. You know, they didn't realize that for about $100 a person, you can take a private yacht on the water for 4 hours and do whatever you want for 4 hours. You know, and it was just, I thought, very cool to bring that to the people.
Yeah. Great. Well, so, you know, there you'll see a lot of overlap among the captains. Some people do primarily deliveries. Some of us do primarily teaching, but we all tend to do all of those things, right? Because it's that kind of business. But so our next speaker is Captain Boomies. And so she's also, her real name, Kate Hollingsworth. She runs more than 100 different vessels a year as a delivery captain, boat instructor, and a content creator. She earned her first sea miles as a young sailor on Long Island Sound and then worked her way up from deckhand to captain aboard private yachts and worldwide. So she enjoys this glamorous life of yachting like the rest of us, of course, but she's also not afraid to crawl into the bilge like the rest of us while cracking wise with some salty sailors. Holding a 200-ton USCG license, Boomies has raced across oceans, crewed for billionaires, and now creates fun, unfiltered videos about whatever floating thing she likes, while also helping marine businesses navigate that social media marketing. Critical, critical. So, based on her home port of Baltimore, not Annapolis this time. She specializes in new vessel deliveries, turning logistical headaches into seamless transitions. Her expertise encourages happy clients who keep coming back. The fun fact is that dozens of Chesapeake Bay boaters have no idea that their prized possession was first helmed by her. She doesn't leave a sticker or anything. So following her salty, silly, and occasional educational adventures at Captain Boomies. So tell us more.
Boy. Oh my goodness. Okay, I've got slides, right?
She's got some.
Yeah, I do have slides. Okay, this is me at my very first boat show on the right there. And my father had me on boats very young. My mother was very stressed out about it. Can I get the next one? Like she said, I did start being crew. These are my crew when I was working on yachts. So they would love to be shown in their skirts and polos. And it was, you know.
And the ones on the left signed the release and the ones on the right didn't? Is that
I have no idea what happened here, honestly. This is probably just a mistake I made. And, you know. Okay, let's talk about the weird deliveries that I get to do that not a lot of captains get to do. And it's these ship offloads where the boat has come over. It has, you know, vapors in the tank because the shipyard that built it over in Europe was not going to waste the money on that. And so they hand it off. Things are not entirely installed. Things are definitely not in English. And then this ship puts it in that crane and launches it overboard. And then it's my job to get it to the place that finishes outfitting the yacht. This is a very cool job and a very tough one to get because you have to have an impossibly flexible schedule. So these ships come in and out of Port Baltimore. I'm very well known with all of the ship agents, which is kind of an interesting gig if you know enough about boats in the water. It's being a ship agent is the person who gets all of the paperwork, the customs documents, orders the tugs, orders the pilot, deals with the line handlers union, which I'm not going to talk about anymore. And then somewhere along the line, somebody has to coordinate with a delivery captain. So that's a lot of people to be in touch with, and then a very special relationship with the delivery captain. So that's why this job is very specialized, and it moves around on the calendar by weeks sometimes. Mm-hmm. So you have to be really ready to give up your time to it. I think I have one more. No? Oh, yeah. And then I do social media. So if you want to see me embarrass the heck out of myself, please go check out both of these two videos. It's me screwing up as a captain, and I think it's important to put that all out there. I think remaining humble as a captain is really difficult to do because it feels really good to walk around and tell people I'm a captain. And all of the greatest maritime mistakes at some level, the captain's ego got in the way. So this is how I keep myself humble. Okay, please enjoy.
That's great. So, we've got also Michael Hull, who, like me, started sailing as an adult. First, but for him, first on a Barnett 14-foot dinghy in 1993. He owned a small swing keelboat, a Tartan 33. He was part owner there. And since 2003, he's owned and sailed a Sabre 34. We bumped into each other on the dock the other day. Well, not literally, but he took his first serious sailing course in the late 90s and has subsequently obtained numerous U.S. sailing and ASA certifications. In the fall of 2000, he joined the Command and Seamanship Training Squadron, the CSTS at USNA, and sailed as a CO or as an XO with the Navy sailing every summer through 2019. Did they kick you out after that? Was that? No, just kidding. Mike was associated with J World Annapolis for 24 years, first as a student and then more recently as a big boat instructor. From 2013 to 2024. He joined Annapolis Sailing School as a captain in 2024. He routinely teaches basic cruising, bareboat cruising, coastal navigation, and has recently led several flotillas in the BVIs and the Abacos. So Mike holds a USCG 50-ton master's license with a sailing endorsement. Take it away.
Well, thank you. As Hillary mentioned, I think one of the reasons I'm an instructor is that I was not a little kid on a sailboat. My dad was a golfer. He tried to turn me into a golfer. So I grew up being a golf caddy in high school. And after sweating, very hot summers and being hit by golf balls, I decided this was not for me. Actually, let's go back one slide. I did learn sailing in a dinghy. And I learned to sail out of a book. I did that for 6 or 7 years, which was a large mistake. You can kind of tell when you look here because I'm holding the main sheet the wrong way with my fingers toward it, and I'm not using the hiking stick on a 14-foot boat in Antigua. So,
ouch.
So you can see I wasn't very good. I also flipped that boat over by my young daughter, called my first boat Flippy, after the first 30 seconds I was on it. So anyway, I graduated to this monster. This is a 22-foot swing keel McGregor with a maximum speed of 2.1 knots. So from the West River, if we got to Thomas Point, that was like a big day. So I made the mistake of trailering this thing up Interstate 95 to Lake George, where there's no wind in Lake George either, just like the bay. So this is Lake George, and believe it or not, I met my family. We stayed on this boat for a week in Lake George. 4 of us, 2 kids and my wife and I sleeping in there. It was a little small. So let's do the next slide. So finally, I got around to taking lessons. I went and took 1 lesson in 1994. I thought I was pretty experienced, went to the Annapolis Sailing School. And then I took this one in 2000, which was a delivery course on a Morgan 48 from the Abacos to Miami. That's a guy named Dan Rugg. I don't know if anybody knows him, but Dan's the former sailing master at the Naval Academy. So I got on this boat. You can see the smile on my face. It's once you get on a big boat, you never go back. It's kind of like, oh, these are cool. I want one of these. So I went back, took a bunch of lessons, and 3 years later went to New London, Connecticut, and spent $90,000 on a boat, which I've had ever since. So a few years later, I started with Dan's program in the Naval Academy. They take sailors, don't have to be a captain, but they like it if you are. And they'll teach you how to sail the Navy way and put you on the Navy 44s. And before you know it, you're out there with 8 19-year-olds that are trying to kill you because they have less than a week's sailing experience. And you're 50 miles out in the ocean in the Atlantic on your own. So they are very cool boats. Those Navy 44s, by the way, are Pearsons that probably cost $300,000, I guess, new on the market. They managed to spend $1.1 million each on those boats. but they are pretty bulletproof. They have 3 inches of plate steel in the bow. So if ever you see one coming at you with all these Navy sailors on it, get out of the way. They're going to kill you. And this is me this year. I had the opportunity to take Annapolis Sailing School on their first ever flotilla in the BVI, and it was a blast. It just blew 25 knots all the time, and we had a great time. They're big boats, so you need that much. I think as a instructor, I think I have a little bit of sympathy for students. I mean, I think the major thing to being an instructor is you got to have a lot of patience. And the first thing I like to do with people is turn the boat around in circles, because that's going to happen to you anyway, whether you want it or not, within a half hour. So I think that because I learned as an adult, I was really bad. Like the first time I approached a dock at the west end of the Bahamas, and I'd never thrown dock lines to anybody, and you could tell. So it's just if you do have that same sense that it wasn't easy for me to learn, it's not easy for them to learn either. So it just gives you a lot of patience, and you take your time.
See, like I always tell my students, I made all the mistakes, so you don't have to.
That's the thing about captains, right? I mean, we've all had real embarrassing moments. We just had them
Definitely.
for our students.
Well, I'm going to ask a few questions here, and some will be for, directed at some of you, and then others, it'll be like for everyone or anyone. And so let me start with Sean. Let's go back to you. When you talked about running your sailing charter business after working at somebody else's, right? And so what did you learn about the things you had to do for your business? What made your business work, right?
Well, I felt that the biggest thing for us was to kind of separate from the sales portion that seems to always be attached to every charter company. Like every charter company has a sales division that places the yachts into it, and that becomes more of the priority. Then it's more of a hospitality company, and we're a hotel, and we're a vacation destination.
Okay.
So when I kind of wanted to transition, I wanted to kind of take the focus of that more towards the guest experience, keeping the owner's experience involved, in mind as well. But, I really wanted to take it completely away from the sales division, and that kind of, this is a tool to sell boats more, and just let's make this like a vacation for people, whether it's for 3 hours or it's for a week, like treat it that way. And that was the biggest thing I wanted to bring.
But with your business, are the boats owned by separate owners, or are they company owned?
No, we don't own any of the vessels. So they're all privately owned. They're all usually bought and established as a boat as a business. So it's set up as an LLC. There's depreciation, tax advantages that come with that. And that's kind of seems to become the new model for yacht buying. You're not fully ready to live on the boat and sail the boat, or you need the financial kind of incentive to kick back on it. That seems to be the way that it's working now. So all of our boats are privately owned. We do a management fee for like monthly yacht watching and maintenance, kind of schedule it for that. And then it's just a revenue split comes in.
And so do you have a sales portion where you go out and find those owners?
We don't know. And we kind of want to get into it. And I also don't want to get into it because it starts to cloud the water,
Yeah.
It's, we have a lot of good relationships with different yacht brokers and different manufacturers in town that need a place to give, their clients a place to land a boat that necessarily doesn't want to be with the factory establishment. So,
right.
We say we're here for the party. We're not here to marry anyone, so we're here to dance.
Well, that sounds like a good theory. Yeah, not avoiding the ownership is important. For those of us who own boats, who understand that part, so
when the boats break, we actually get paid to fix them. Yeah. Works.
Brilliant. Kate, what about you? You do lots of deliveries and other things. Can you talk about how you got started doing those deliveries?
Yeah,
because you said they were hard to come by.
So the delivery business is a tough one because you are constantly selling yourself, essentially. Every time I finish a delivery, I have to turn around and go find another one. The reality is the bulk of my deliveries do not come from this Captain Boomies person that I am on the internet. That person's ridiculous. They know me as Captain Kate Hollingsworth, and she'll get the job done. And she knows just enough about engineering to know when you really do have to pack it in versus when, oh, maybe somebody just needs to prime something or throw a filter in or limp this thing back to the dock because we'll get it done. And so having kind of this split personality means that, yes, I know a lot more people now because of social media, but my core business when it comes to deliveries still comes from the relationships that I made ages ago with brokers, with dealers, with other captains, with crew agencies. All of these things were really where I get my delivery work.
Great. Yeah. What about you, Mike? You teach for various schools. Do you teach privately too? And what did that look like? How did you get that started?
Yeah,
Any
for me,
private working?
I've always been a sailing school teacher primarily, largely because of the W-2 versus
Mhm.
1099 issue. So most sailing schools have insurance.
Right.
Knock on wood, I've never tested anybody's insurance. So I was with a class, I was not teaching, but with a class in the Caribbean, and we were racing in the Heineken Cup, and there was a crash jibe, and the boat was full of lawyers. And one of the lawyers put their hand on the gooseneck just as they jibed and on a 48-foot boat and caught their hand. And, I'm thinking, wow, I'm glad this is not my business. Fortunately, they were not injured and they were very nice and there's nothing happened. But most sailing schools, either whether they're ASA or US Sailing, tell you that you are covered by the school's insurance.
Right.
So I assume that if something happens, the school would step in and back you up. I've never had to test it.
And it's not your boat.
And recently, yeah, it's not my boat. And recently I've become an LLC, just started one, so that I could do some things on my own. I did a delivery with a friend of mine as a crew member on the delivery. And I thought, yeah, if I'm going to start doing that stuff, that's the one that I really have concerns about from a liability standpoint, because you get in a boat and you don't really know it that well. You've got a couple of days to figure it out and you're in the ocean with the boat going to Maine. If something happens, and I've been on lots of my friends' new boats that had holes in them or, other major pieces missing, and we discover that when you're out halfway in the voyage. I have I retired as a design professional. I had a business. I've got a retirement fund. I don't want to lose it.
Yeah.
So I've been told the best way to do that is through an LLC. And I did get captain's insurance through an organization called 360. I don't know if you guys probably all know that. So I'm sure these two are much more familiar with than I am in terms of the risks that are out there. But I also, as a sailing school instructor, I try not to steal clients, because I owned a business once and I really didn't appreciate it when, people left my business and stole clients. So,
Right.
That's another thing you have to consider is the ethics of all of this. And you have to be a good steward of, the sailing industry, I think, is a very small industry.
It is. How
And
do we all know
everybody
each
knows
other?
everybody. And if you get a bad reputation, that's not good.
Yeah. Well, we both teach for Annapolis Sailing School, and they had lightning strike one of their boats at the dock. So there wasn't any captain blamed for that, right? So it was struck at the dock, and not only did it knock out all its instruments, but it knocked out the instruments of the two boats next to it. So that was a heck of a strike there. So hopefully the insurance is, their insurance works, right? Let's think about how do you insure yourselves?
I actually have a couple of different insurances, and it's because I have insurance on my license, I have insurance on my LLC, and then I have a separate policy that I enact anytime I'm doing filming on boats. So, and because it's such a different monster. So anytime I'm helping with social media on new vessels, or a company needs to make a whole new brochure for whatever, I'd carry a separate insurance policy, and it's a production insurance company. So they're used to dealing with filming, so that's what they do.
That's worthwhile.
We have an umbrella policy for the company as a school. I actually work under that since I'm the owner of the LLC, so that covers my captain's insurance as well. Most of our boats are under our umbrella fleet policy, so we host the policy with Great American, but they actually have their own underwriter and administrative policy with Hill Group separately for each vessel in our charter program. So all of the charters that go out are covered under the owner's insurance policy. The captains that captain the vessels, some of them have their own 360 policies, some have nothing. It's all structured underneath the owner's policy.
Yeah.
So you can wear a belt and suspenders. So it's like nice to have multiple protection. So I'll let Kate elaborate.
Yeah. So when I am working for a private owner, I'm absolutely on their policy. Yes, I do still have mine, but I am on their policy, and I have a fabulous little form that I'll share with you all that I send them in an email to make sure that it happens.
Yeah. And that is a good policy. Yeah.
Yeah, I found that it's better, especially doing deliveries when we've done those as well, that there's one policy to rule them all, and you've got your other, background protection, but that is nowhere mentioned anywhere in the, the discussion. It's everything is based on this insurance policy. We're cleared as a competent operator. We're on their form. We're added to them as a operator. And then that way everything is covered through that.
Yeah. That makes a lot of
We
sense.
do the same thing with a lot of our charter captains as well. Some boat policies require that we add them as an operator. Most of them don't, because we're a bareboat charter company. We can authorize the operator ourselves under our insurance policy as if we were bareboat chartering to a guest. But to be belt and suspenders, we try to add every one of our regular captains as an operator on each individual policy.
How about everyone? We heard from Sean a little bit about, how you got into the work you're doing, and it kind of chose you because of the entertainment value. I got a sense, but how did you decide delivery was maybe a specialty for you, and how did you decide education?
Despite appearances, I don't like people, and I love deliveries. If the owner's not there, great. Just give me the helm. I'm gonna do 400 miles happily, like without anybody else around. And so deliveries really were where I enjoyed boating the most.
Yeah, I guess I'm probably the opposite. I actually did some teaching in college. When I was in my 20s and 30s, I was a adjunct instructor in a college, and I got used to 19 and 20-year-olds at that point. However, I must tell you, I really enjoy teaching adults a lot more than especially naval midshipmen. You'd think they'd be the greatest. The midshipmen are very, very talented, and they'll tell you that. But they also don't want to
pay
be
you money to be there.
Yeah, that's the other problem. They're getting paid to do this, to be students, and a lot of them have no interest whatsoever in being on a sailboat. I'm like, well, you're in the Navy, right? But why are you doing this? And they're like, well, I'm a cyber major. I don't think I'm going to really ever use any of this sailing stuff. And I'm like, well, aren't you going to be like on a ship or a submarine? And they go, no, I'm going to be a Marine. I'm like, yeah, well, I've heard the first thing they do with Marines is take you out in a helicopter and drop you with a little rubber boat 20 miles off the shore in the Pacific, and you have to sail back. So
Yeah.
the nice thing about teaching adults is they're like us. They sort of have been bitten
Right.
by the sailing bug, and it's really a lot of fun just to share the kind of passion and why we like it so much with them. And that's why I like to teach, I guess. I really don't have any interest in being alone on a boat out in the middle of the ocean. It's like for the first couple of hours or maybe days, it's fine. But you know, it gets cold. There's no TV. You can't get a shower for 6 days. You have to stay up all night. It's yeah. So different strokes for different folks, right?
It is. It's got to fit. It's got to fit what you want to do, right? But what about, tax and accounting? You talked about forming an LLC, and then we've heard the LLC thrown around a little bit. What do you do, or did you make a decision to do LLC instead of S corp or sole proprietorship?
I worked for billionaires. And they would tell you over and over again that the only way to have real wealth is to start a business. And it wasn't until I started paying taxes differently that I figured out what they were talking about. And so I do recommend that you incorporate in some way, but it turns out that being a sole proprietorship is fine. You can do it that way. LLCs do give you some protection, and it does make it a little bit easier to explain yourself, is what I'm hearing myself. Something.
Somebody do that online as well. They have to give you 2 ways here.
And so I love my LLC because a lot of ills fall in there. But I'm also doing a lot of things. So production means, yeah, I have to buy this fabulous outfit so that I can wear it on that boat for that photo shoot.
I second that. Every hobby I've ever had became a business of some sort so that I could find a way to operate at a loss for at least 2 years and then declare a new business with that new hobby that I got. I'm LLC right now. It would be great to go S corp eventually, but where we're at now, there's great protection. I was very, very, very terrible at bookkeeping, so I can't recommend just hire someone to do it.
Knows how to do it.
Just get someone that does it, and then let them do that, and then they'll come and yell at you, and they'll make you feel bad about where everything lives in this structure, and then eventually you get better at it. And then you have a happy relationship with your bookkeeper, which is where I'm at now. So I just recommend just outsource as much as you can.
Yeah, my bookkeeper thought I just didn't make enough money to become. So maybe sadly that's the case.
Well, I was going to ask, especially these other two guys, one of the things that I haven't done is I don't really have a maritime lawyer. I was going to ask you both. I assume you both do probably. I was an architect, so I owned a business with about 50 people in it originally, and it was an Inc. So we were a full-blown corporation, and after having 50, being essentially the major shareholder in a company with 50 people, that's why I got out of it. That's why I retired when I was 60 and went sailing. So I'm trying not to get into that mode again.
Yeah.
I don't want to have employees. I got a little bit of advice from a financial advisor. I did the LLC on the web for $300 or whatever it was. And I'm sort of just putting my foot in the business on your own because I want to keep it simple and I don't want to get complicated.
Yeah.
But I'd be curious what you guys have to say about lawyers. I mean, we've all talked about insurance, right? We've all talked about insurance. Tell me what you would advise in that way.
So if you're doing big dollars in this delivery thing, and that's then you have 2 lawyers. You have your business lawyer and you have your maritime attorney. Your maritime attorney, though, is really easy to get, and you should have it through your captain's license insurance. You're allowed to call that person, by the way, and just have a quick chat. So do it.
Yeah, good plan.
Yeah, we have a retainer with the law firm locally that's maritime attorney. It kind of handles both things for us. We found someone that was very established and that worked with us, and I don't know if I can legally say who it is, so I'm just kidding.
I think you are allowed.
I know.
All right, we know how we're doing it now, but where do you find clients? What do you do to find clients?
So we, for charter clients, we do a lot of just online marketing. Our website is our biggest tool. The word of mouth is like very close second. So
Okay.
we do a lot of just online marketing. We get a ton of people coming from just different urban regions of like Philadelphia and DC and New York that are
Okay.
coming down to visit. And just I'm in Annapolis, get on the water. So we
Okay.
attack that with kind of SEO type stuff, and just that's how we find the majority of our people.
Okay.
I'm so jealous. I don't use Captain Boomies. Like I said, it's all about relationships. It's all about, they don't trust Captain Boomies. Are you kidding me? Why would you? That lady's nuts. It is about relationships that I've had for years and years and years, and honestly, a reputation for doing the job and doing it well.
Vicky?
Yeah, one of the things that I've been surprised is that I did some online teaching during the pandemic. Of course, we were all the sailing schools were shut down for a while, and they closed the bay. And I was at J World at the time. We're like, oh my God, what are we going to do? We're screwed. So I'm like, well, why don't we teach some stuff online and we'll do seminars? So I taught coastal navigation. It's called ASA 105, but US Sailing calls it CONAV, and I did that online. I was surprised how far away, like sailing schools locally have always been sort of DC market. You might get some people from Philly or Pennsylvania or, the Eastern Shore, but mostly it's a local market. However, we started getting people that wanted to take navigation who were in, hey, I'm in Seattle and I'm chartering a boat and they say I need to have, CONAV, can you do that? And so you would meet people from far away who then were, you found out they only went sailing when they were chartering. Then all of a sudden they wanted to come here to take lessons
Yep.
because we had a bay and they didn't. So I was surprised that kind of online stuff was useful.
I also have my ASA, and I gotta say it was very valuable early in my career
Okay.
because every ASA school needs licensed captains with their ASA to be able to
Sure.
run their programs, and people want them real bad. I was in Greece doing a bareboat charter, and they didn't care about my 200-ton Coast Guard license. They wanted to see my ASA instructor license.
Right.
It was bizarre.
Yeah. Wow. So we've talked a lot about, not getting sued for what we're doing, right? What about passenger behavior? Because sometimes that could be a challenge, including like alcohol use or unfamiliarity with the moving boat, how they have to do it. What kind of situations have you seen that you need to deal with? Passengers.
A little bit of everything that we see in Charter World. I would say for the most part, people are honestly like very respectful and understanding that they don't really know what they're doing out there. They're kind of out of their norm. So they're kind of willing to accept guidance. So as long as in the brief, we talk about appropriate behavior and appropriate etiquette and how to walk around the boat and things like that, it works great. Does it get out of control sometimes? Of course. So it does sometimes. When Kate is on the boat, sometimes it's great. When Captain Boomies comes to town, it gets a little lively. So I just find that as long as you're honest with people up front, and especially for us that we don't own the boat, we could be like, hey, this isn't our boat. We're all out of our place right now. And they find that respectful, and
I do. I talk about using the boss's boat sometimes. So, yeah.
So like I said, I don't deal with clients on board very much. So it's all about setting expectations. And when they had that list up of recommended contract things, all of that is in my contracts, but I talk about it with the client well ahead of time as well. It is a conversation every time I talk about, hey, if I get on board and I find out there's something wrong, these are my expectations and I want you to know what they are. And so that I'm a huge fan of setting it up early.
Yeah, I mean, I was on a boat yesterday with a couple who wanted to go for a 3-hour sail, and the guy had taken some lessons, but the gal had not, and she was very nervous. And we're on a 34-foot sailboat that weighs 11,000 pounds, and it's 5 knots of wind. She's like, I'm really nervous when the sailboat heels. I'm like, well, it's not going to heal very much, and no matter what we do to it, we cannot flip this thing over. I'm really nervous. It's like, you really don't have to be nervous. I'm totally okay with all that stuff. People that we went out, it was Saturday, so we go out Back Creek and there's 12 power boats within, 100 yards of us. And they were very, very nervous about like, well, that boat over there, that's so close to us. I'm like, no, it's not. It really isn't. You're going to be fine.
Yeah.
People that are like that have respect for their environment. The ones that I worry about are, hey, man, we're on a boat. Like, where's the beer? Let's have fun. You got to worry about. They're the people that are going to kill you. And you do need to watch those folks. And sometimes they're on your boat. Sometimes they're on that boat that's approaching, right?
Yeah.
It's like, oh, yeah. One of two things. That those guys are either idiots or that's Al Qaeda. And either way, I'm going to turn and go the other direction because it's not going to be good. So people that have respect for the environment, that they're not comfortable, that's fine. It's the ones that are too comfortable, right?
Yeah. Well, it's just us captains here. So lessons learned the hard way. Anybody got a story?
Oh, God.
What makes it a hard way, right? We only have another few minutes.
I know, I'm trying. Okay. Get on the insurance and
Oh,
don't
ouch.
settle for not seeing the documentation. And especially if you're going to be doing a multi-day transit,
Yeah.
and you might set off down the Chesapeake Bay and you got about a day before you get out of service, right? You want to know that by the time you get down there, you have absolutely seen that
The
document
document.
that shows your name on the policy. And you want that partly because you want to make sure that the person you're dealing with is the person who has responsibility for the vessel. Ask me why. So when there's charter management companies involved, when there's vessel management companies involved, when there's a lot of other hands in the pot for some of these very expensive boats, you need to know where your money's coming from and who actually has authority. And that's why the insurance conversation is so, so important to have.
Yeah, that's good. We've got time for some questions. If you're in the room, we've got a microphone here for you. If you're online, I think you've got some. All right. So we're going to let you start with a question. I'll let you start right there.
This is a question for Kate. Have you ever refused to deliver a boat after you've gotten on it and for the first time you've gone, I'm not taking this job?
Yes.
And what was the problem that you couldn't fix?
I got on board and none of the safety equipment was on board. So it was a brand new purchase. And I found out once I got there, because it was through a management company that had hired me. The management company hired me. I get to the vessel and I see none of the safety equipment is on board. Things are literally unplugged that would normally be unplugged, like your radar, like your chart plotters, like your AIS. And I know that something has gone badly here. Come to find out, it's a divorce issue. This boat got sold in a divorce that was not cute. And so when that happened, I said, I'm sorry. I'm not willing to take this boat anywhere until a full survey is done.
Okay.
They ended up giving that boat to another captain friend of mine who was just desperate for the work. And they regretted every second of that delivery.
Poor guy.
Yeah.
Ouch.
And it took them 3 months to get paid.
Ouch.
Yeah.
All right. We've got some online questions. You want to bring those to the mic?
So tying into the delivery that you refused, right? Like,
Yeah.
did you still get paid for your time, your travel? How does that conversation go of like, I ain't taking this boat and you still owe me.
So that's when I learned how to put that in my contracts, and how to have that conversation early. So if a client tells me, it's also why I kind of only work with brokers now. I only work with brokers. I only work with dealers. I only work with corporations, because I can count on them to give me the boat that they said they're going to give me. When I do deal with private, which I will do as, as a favor. I know, if I have to. When I do private, I have in my contract and a conversation, hey, you're representing this boat as seaworthy. Here's the list of things that I consider seaworthy. If I go through this boat and this checklist is not met, then this boat is not seaworthy. You will pay me for the day that I showed up and checked on this, and I'm going to walk away. You're welcome to have me stay on and pay me this day rate to get your boat seaworthy, but I'm going to have to estimate how long that's going to take.
Good point. You have another one? Yeah, go ahead.
So are any of you on the app Boat Setter? Can you speak to it? Is it good? Is it not so good?
How do I get sponsored by?
So the question from online is if any of the captains are on Boat Setter. Boat Setter.
Boat Setter. Yeah, so Boat Setter is like a third tier, third party platform that helps book yachts for people for charter. We're on it. We're on that. We're on Sailo. We're on Get My Boat. There's a few other ones that kind of do what they do. They kind of work like an Airbnb, where they're like a third party broker. We give them the rate that we need to make for our boats. They add fees on top of that for their marketing, et cetera, and then they book it on top to the guests. It works great for us as a charter company. They bring a ton of volume. We find that as our niche as a catamaran and monohull sailboats, there's not very many on there. And if they do have some, it's, mom and pop style. So works great for us there. As a captain, I'm also a member of there and available to captain for their other charters. So I don't have as much experience in what it's like just from the captain side, but our other captains that work with us also take jobs from other things. And it's kind of like a version of CAPCA, where it's the job forum. And here's the list of charters, and we're trying to find skippers. And if you match up with dates, it will find you work. So I recommend kind of getting involved as a captain in all of those that you can. Be choosy maybe with which boats you take, because anybody could put their boat up on there. And if you are selected for a captain for a specific vessel, definitely go up and follow up. Make sure all the safety equipment, make sure all the documentation, all of that, because you will find all kinds of things that are missing. But I still think it's a good avenue to find work.
We have a question in the room here. Did you want to come up to the microphone? No? All right, we'll take another one. Here's one. Come on down. Cheryl's got a question.
Right. Do any of you see any holes in the market? Things that maybe you aren't interested in doing, but you could see a place for somebody else to do. Especially here in the Chesapeake, because you all work in the Chesapeake.
Let me tell you the job that I don't have time for, but would be booked every single weekend of the summer forever. Couples coaching on boats. Couples coaching on boats. I would be booked every single weekend if I wanted to be. And you can charge. I charge $800 for 3 hours. And that's as much as I'll do. And I would be booked every weekend.
Wow.
Couples coaching. So if a couple owns a boat, they both need to know how to operate that boat. They both need to learn how to operate that boat. Separately need to learn how to operate that boat. Because if somebody's having a heart attack, somebody's got to get them back to the dock. And it doesn't have to be pretty, but it has to be doable. So this when the boat owners figure this out and the gears start turning, it becomes a emergency for them to get this training. It becomes the most valuable thing they can do if they love each other. And that's how I market that. And I don't do it because I would be booked I want my summer weekends. I have a boat too. Come on.
I would probably do it. I don't know that I have the requisite marriage counseling skills required, but I was out with a couple yesterday morning who clearly were in that position, and I started talking right about, like, do you know how to use the radio? Because he's going to fall overboard and you're going to be on the boat by yourself. So you can see it going, boing. You're like, really?
You have to.
Come to the mic.
One of the things that concerns me about the ASA 101 course is that they want you to do a figure 8 man overboard pickup. If it's 2 people on board, people don't fall overboard on calm days. People fall overboard when there's chop and there's all kind of things going on. So if it's a husband and wife, husband falls overboard, you don't have somebody pointing, you don't have somebody else getting the pole, you don't have somebody else doing this. You got one person, and what I teach is immediately heave to. Stop the boat as quick as you can. And I wish ASA would change their recommendation so that they would recommend heaving to immediately.
Yeah, I'm a relatively new ASA instructor, and I agree with you. I understand sort of why they teach it, but our policy at the Naval Academy was always, now this is also very boat specific, right?
Yeah.
Most big boats, the first thing I teach them, I ask them, did you ever see the movie The Hunt for the Red October? He goes, oh yeah, it was years ago. I remember that. And I'm like, do you remember the Crazy Ivan? So the first thing I do with people is on a big boat is I say, all right, turn the wheel, haul way into the wind and leave it there. We just turn around in circles. Because that's the first thing that you really ought to do. It's a very bad mistake in a big boat to sail away from somebody in the water. We did it a couple of times with Navy 44s with the students on windy days, and I've lost more than one big orange life jacket that says Defiance or Tenacious or whatever, because they got too far away from, I'm like, that's a big orange life jacket. If somebody's really in the water, it's a little brown coconut, and you get more than 20 yards away, you're never going to see them again. I agree with you. Somebody, I guess, decided that jibing is dangerous on a small, 26 boat or whatever. So we're going to do this without jibing. But in the quick and dirty lesson that she talked about with the couple, you want to teach them how to stop the boat close to the person, immediately get the sails down so that they can get back to the boat. I
What
agree.
about you, Sean? What do you think? You have to teach ASA as well, right?
Yeah, I walk through the figure 8 and then I tell them to immediately forget it. And if we're on a boat with an engine, we're going to use every tool available. We're going to heave to, we're going to start our engine. We're going to go get the figure.
Yeah. Good question.
But I could talk about ASA corrections all day.
This just an addendum to the issue about insurance liability coverage. The ASA, and I'm sure US Sailing, well, actually it's now American Sailing, not ASA. But both of them, I mean, not only do you have coverage through the school you're teaching with, but as a member of those national organizations, you have, I think it's $1 million umbrella.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. As an instructor, you do get access to the $1 million umbrella policy as well.
You're teaching an ASA course.
Sports.
Yeah, you're doing private and
Something else.
Hey, good evening. I'd appreciate the panel's thoughts on how to Yahoo proof our industry. As a guy who's had a pretty high tonnage master's license for decades, and I just joined CAPCA, having recently moved to the area, I'm interested in your thoughts about differentiating ourselves, a
Uh,
professional association. And when you mention boat setter and salo, I get worried about engaging and participating in illegal charters, and barriers to entry are a Yahoo who gets a six-pack and does that via that app, et cetera.
as long as we don't go into anything that would be covered by the Brown Act.
If we got rid of all the Yahoos, then like, what is the?
Yeah.
Was the YouTube channel? What's the one that we all do?
Qualified.
Qualified captain would be suffered hard. I think for yourself, the best way to Yahoo proof yourself is to get the right education, have the right etiquette, do that. As far as interacting with other boats, entities, etc., like Kate's saying, be thorough and upfront. Do your checks. You go to the vessel. If you get booked on a third party, go to the vessel immediately. As soon as you've been chosen, be like, I want to see all your stuff. You know, and if they don't have it, give them an opportunity to present it. Because some people are just like, oh shit, you're right. It's in my other, you know. But as long as you're doing that thorough check ahead of time, I think there's ways to protect yourself and still find a lot of avenues for.
I think you'll find that it's, you know, as an organization, there is some of that we do kind of Yahoo proof our industry by having some standards that are out there, so that we have education, so that we have people who understand the need for insurance and for lawyers and so on. That, you know, the kids, I'll call them kids anyway, because anybody under 60 is a kid to me, but you know, who want to run out there and do something crazy, that's going to happen, right? In any industry. But I think that as a professional organization, and the more we tend to know each other and refer each other, I think that tends to kind of squeeze some of them out of it. So that's my opinion.
I'm of several minds about this. One is I kind of created Captain Boomies so that I could talk more honestly about, hey, stop it. And I could swear and I could be as unprofessional as I want about telling you what I think you should actually be doing out there. That being said, I do think that as a whole, boaters are getting better, and the numbers will show you that. Yes, we had a blip in 2020. And I do think that the whole six-pack system probably needs an overhaul. I don't think that the bareboat charter system is doing any of us any favors. I think that all has to get changed, but I understand why it exists because I deal with a lot of the commercial guys. Once you start talking about commercial vessels and the US fleet, now you've got a whole other can of worms that you got to deal with. So I get where we've gone wrong there, and I don't know what we can do about it though.
I think Kate said something to me just privately a minute ago that if we didn't have Yahoos in the industry, we wouldn't have an industry. At least 50% of the people that you see around you on the water are Yahoos, you know. So one other thing though, I used to have a professional architect's licenses. Matter of fact, a whole bunch of them. I was licensed in 34 states. And one of the things that we felt about professional licensing is that you can rely on that for too much. And somebody told me once that remember that whenever you have a professional license, that is the minimum requirements that a state or governmental agency decides is necessary to do what you're doing.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean you're good. It just means you met the minimum.
Yeah.
So I think that's even true of the U.S. Coast Guard situation. Certainly, I think you said that too, is that it's minimum requirements for six packs or captains. Those people that are real professionals keep on learning all the time.
Yeah.
They learn from every mistake that they make. I learn stuff every time I'm on a boat,
Yeah.
regardless of who's on it or what it is, because something happens that's, oh, I'm going to remember that.
Yeah.
And hopefully we all build up that kind of experience and quality and you know, it's just not the little piece of paper or the card that you've got in your
Right.
wallet that says you're a captain. It's the way that you behave. And most of us have learned that by making mistakes. I mean, I was in a bad
Yeah.
one. I was with a bunch of midshipmen that had done a great job, 7 of them, and we were on a 1,000-mile round trip. We'd gone to Rockport, Massachusetts with these young kids and back. And coming through the Cape Cod Canal, I was down below doing paperwork, getting ready for going back into port. And my 19-year-old ran that boat right into a big channel marker. Oops.
Oops. You did
And-
get it on video.
Yeah, and we were 4 hours from home on a 2-week voyage. He rams this channel marker. The channel marker didn't look too bad. It had like some dark blue paint. We had a collapsed bow pulpit and a big gouge in the bow. And, I got back to the Naval Academy and the lawyers met us at the dock and we took everybody separate places. And the kid who hit the buoy, nothing happened to him. Me? They yanked my qualifications. I had to retrain for a year,
Wow.
because I wasn't up there watching
Mhm.
every second.
Yeah.
And ever since that was in 2012, I think. That was before I had my captain's license. And that's one of the reasons I decided to go get it. And,
Okay.
now I pretty much I'm not always watching everybody's hands. I'm sure as hell watching where the boat's going all the time. You have an experience like that?
I mean, I worked with professional crew
Yeah.
and a lot of them were young men. And it is interesting. I mean, okay, I love young men. Don't get me wrong. But you do have to train them to within an inch of their life to understand the consequences. And specifically, you have to train them to care about the fact that whatever they do is still going to land on you as the captain. Everything that happens on board is still going to land on you as the captain. What this taught me was to polish stainless steel alongside them so they would feel bad for me. And it taught me that I needed everyone to feel the level of responsibility that I felt. I learned that from the captains I worked for. They taught me, hey, you're going to do this so we don't die. But also, if you die, it's my fault. Like,
Right.
so I need you to do this right. And that really helped me to grow and get good at this.
Well, we are over time right now, but there's one last question that I just wanted to ask everybody on the panel and maybe everybody in the room, if you want to come up to the microphone and tell us too, is do you make money in one of the ways we have not talked about with your captain's license? Does it enter into your music?
I have done musical cruises. Yeah, that I'm still driving the boat similarly while doing that. I would say the most interesting way I've ever made money with my captain's license is I got to marry someone.
Okay.
She was welcome for it.
That is.
I don't know how wealthy they were. It was a very quick charter. They could not afford the full day, so I don't think.
But yeah, my wedding got rained out. Didn't get to do it.
One of the most interesting ways I've ever made money with my captain's license is as a location scouter
Oh, wow.
for films. And yeah, which actually turned into being like the Marine supervisor for Beasts of the Southern Wild, which was this great little art film that was on Oprah's list and everything.
Love it.
And those boats looked like dilapidated messes, but it was my job to make sure that they were actually functional and safe. And the art department
That
made
sounds
them
a
look horrible,
challenge.
and it was great.
Well, my wife told me, you could do anything you want in the marine industry, but just don't ever invest in a marine business. So I try not
Don't
to.
tell your accountant.
Yeah, so I try not to do that. But I still can't believe that actually people pay us for doing what we do and go sailing, Pretty cool.
Does anybody else have a specialty that we don't know about? Yeah.
Let's say you talk about scouting for
Scouting, yeah.
for sets and so on. A company that I worked for, that I was the captain on this boat. Our boat turned out to be the green room for National Treasure 2. So we were on the Potomac while they were filming on shore, and they would come back out to the boat. So that was
so cool. That is really cool.
And I still have a copy of the check that they wrote. Yes.
All right, well, let's thank our panel. Good. We've got something.
And we have a couple of gifts for our panelists. So each of them will get a Kapka duffel bag.
Yay.
And hopefully you can use this on some wonderful journey somewhere.
Look at that.
That looks great. I do love a bag.
There we go.
Kate says she does love a bag. There we go. All right. Thank you so much. This was really amazing. And thank you, Hillary, for moderating.
Cute.
And Will, if you can advance to the next slide, don't leave yet because we have door prizes. So we need the blue door prizes. We need a cup, an empty cup. Hey, Paul, can you grab an empty cup back there and run it up here to Dave? And while we do that, everyone needs to find your blue door prize. Dave Sire and I are the only two that have not taken a blue door prize tonight because he won one a couple of months ago and doesn't feel like he should. Okay, Tony didn't take one either. Oh, good. Tony didn't either. Dave and I. All right. Thank you. So we're going to put that in there. Thank you. Well done, Paul. I gave that to the right person. All right. Okay, we're going to mix them up. And Kate, you're going to draw the door prize.
Oh, he has it. I do not have it.
You do not. Hillary's going to draw it. Okay. Tony's going to draw it. All right. We'll have our president draw it. Okay. All right, Tony. All right. What's the number? Oh, you don't have. A number, the last three numbers are 133.
No.
133. The year.
Win.
Adam, you get a duffel bag as well. All right. Thanks to all of you that are online. Thanks to everybody in the room. And if you could go to one more slide, we are looking forward to seeing you on Zoom on July 28th. Please do not come here. We will not be here, but we will be back in this room on September 29th. So please attend in person if you can on September 29th. But July 28th, our next program is on Zoom only. And we look forward to seeing all of you. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you. We are out.